Welcome back to Moby's Kitchen, and tonight we're going to be making a special treat. This is the first steak on the channel, I believe. So we're going to be making some filet mignon tonight with a red wine reduction sort of mushroom sauce, and it's going to be delicious. So let's take a look at our ingredients tonight. Obviously, we have the star of the show here. We've got 4 filet mignons, and these are choice cut. I'm going to probably do some minor trimming on these when we get that, and I'll show you how I do that. You're going to need some red wine. You can do any kind of red wine. This happens to be a Cabernet. Black pepper. You're going to need a shallot, about 3 or 4 cloves of garlic, some fresh rosemary. We've also got some avocado oil over here, some kosher salt. We have some baby Bella mushrooms, some butter, and some fresh thyme there. That's all you need to make the perfect steak. And let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm gonna trim just a little bit of this excess fat off. You can see this side looks pretty good. We've got a little excess fat here, like on the edges. I don't wanna get rid of too much of this because this is pretty soft fat. But with filet mignon, it's all about like that presentation at the end, right? So just carefully go through and maybe trim some of this little excess fat off. Most of this will render. Filet mignon's super tender. Like I'm not gonna go much crazier than that there. And then I'll just keep repeating that until we get just kind of nice even pieces here with no silver skin or fat. So they kind of look like that when they cook. Okay, so we're gonna pat dry, make sure these steaks are nice and dry before we season them. Flip them over. Just get some paper towels and pat dry them. All right. Good. All right, and then what we're gonna do is season both sides. This is simple. We're just gonna do salt and pepper. You can do your favorite seasoning here. I'm gonna add just a touch of avocado oil. You could use olive oil too. Doesn't matter. Just a touch, rub it in. This kind of helps all the seasoning bind to it. Then we're gonna do our salt first. Kind of salt to taste here. Now, red meat can take a lot of salt, but I don't like it overly salty because we're gonna be making that red wine reduction sauce and that's gonna have salt and pepper in it too, so that's probably good. And then I'm gonna go very liberal with the black pepper. I love black pepper on my steak. Just a nice coating of the black pepper. And you flip them over and do the exact same thing on the other side. Now, as you flip them over, you can kind of get some of that seasoning on the edges, just kind of roll it around on the cutting board. Don't waste any of that good seasoning there. Flip them over. All right, and repeat on this side, and we'll be right back with you. You know, as I'm seasoning these steaks, I should mention that you want to temper these. So you want to bring these up to about room temp before you start cooking them, because the middle, if the middle's cold, it cooks at an awkward temperature, and then the middle doesn't cook right. So let these sit and rest out of the refrigerator before you start cooking them for at least 20 minutes, preferably 30 minutes, until they become kind of closer to that room temperature in the room, and they will cook much better for you. Okay, so I sliced the butter into tablespoons, about 4 tablespoons, so I have that ready to go. And I unwrapped, I took the sort of the skin or wrapping, the papery stuff on the outside of the garlic off, so that's ready to go. And we've got our rosemary and our thyme on the plate. I like to prep because everything happens really fast. We're gonna be cooking this steak at really high heat, so that's ready to go. And then we're gonna chop a shallot here. So this is how you chop a shallot, very similar to an onion. You're gonna take off this one end here and then cut through the root, halfway through the root and come down. And then you take that outer layer off, that papery skin layer there. Okay. And then you're going to, Kimber's ready for dinner too back there. And you're gonna cut not all the way through, but to the root here. And then you're you're gonna come back and you can cut as thick a pieces as you want or as thin. I'm gonna do a thin piece because this is gonna be for the actual red wine sauce. So we're gonna do nice fine dice on this. And we're gonna use the whole shallot. This is half of it. All right, so that's done. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with the other half. Okay, so next up, we're gonna slice up our baby Bella mushrooms, but first we wanna clean them a little bit. And mushrooms have a ton of water inside of them, so we don't wanna rinse them in water and add more water to the already high water content. So I just take a paper towel and just kind of wipe them off. They tend to be a little bit dirty on the outside. And you just do this one by one, wipe them off. And as you can see, that sort of outer dirt comes off of them. You do that with each one and then we'll be ready for slicing. All right, we've got all of our mushrooms wiped off and clean. So now we're gonna slice them up. The easiest way to do this is to cut it right in half, right down that stem. Then it lays flat like this so you can dice it or slice it up a little bit easier here. Okay. Do this. There we go. So I'll do one more for you on camera. There's a big one. So you can cut it right through that stem. And you've got half of it to lay down. There you go. Okay. There you go. And continue until all your mushrooms are diced up. Okay, so it's time to cook our steaks. And we're gonna get our pan going on a nice, we want like a ripping hot pan for this because we want to develop a nice crust. So we're gonna put this on like a good medium high. You can see this is a big burner here. It's got a ton of flame that comes out. So medium high is good. If you have a smaller burner, you can put it on like a full high setting here. But just know your stove, get a nice pan or skillet that has like a thick bottom. This is a nice all-clad skillet. For that nice crust, it really does work better if you don't use a non-stick pan here, if you use just a regular pan. Okay, so we've been preheating our pan here for about 3 or 4 minutes on medium-high heat. It should be ripping hot by now. We're gonna add in our avocado oil. Oh yeah, instant steam. So we got about a tablespoon of avocado oil there. We're gonna get our filet. We don't wanna lay this away. Yeah. We're gonna do 2 at a time. And just let that go. We wanna get a nice like char on the outside. So we're gonna let that go for about 3 minutes on this side and then flip. Okay, it's time to flip here. Let me turn off our fan so you can hear me. It's time to flip our steaks. It's been a couple minutes actually. Give it a little flip. You can see it's got that nice crust on there. And then what we're going to do here, we're going to add a couple tablespoons of butter. We're going to add a little bit of rosemary, a little bit of thyme. Got to love that pop that the thyme gives you. So you get it all separated here. And then we're going to throw in a couple cloves of garlic and keep them whole. Because then it'll be less chance to burn there. So then what we're going to do is this oil and butter mixture, and with the garlic and the thyme and the rosemary, that'll create like almost like a nice little fragrant butter. You're going to tilt your pan and you're going to bake. This keeps this side nice and moisturized. Gives it some good flavor. And we're gonna go about another 2 minutes and we're gonna be done here. We like a nice medium to medium rare steak here. Keep basting, get it nice and coated on there. All right, then what I like to do is grab my tongs and put your thyme and your rosemary up on top of the steak. Maybe put the garlic up there and just let that flavor just absorb in. And we'll be right back with you. Okay, so these have been going another couple minutes on this side. They're ready to go. I'm gonna take them out here, put them on a plate. The key here is to let them rest. You know, if they're thicker, you cook them a little longer. These are fairly, they're kind of in between thick and thin here. And I'm gonna cook the other two steaks, but we're gonna do the same exact technique with those. So we're gonna give these a minute here, and the key here is to let them rest. And when we're done with the other two steaks, we'll build our sauce here in the pan. Okay, we've got our steaks resting. It's time to make our red wine mushroom sauce here. We're gonna start with our shallot. I've lowered the heat down to medium. This pan is plenty hot. And we're gonna add our mushrooms. Now these are gonna reduce down. You'll see a lot of the moisture will cook out of these. Put them up here. And we're gonna just cook these down, probably for about 5 minutes. And you'll see a lot of water will come out of these mushrooms. It'll help actually deglaze the pan. And then we'll proceed from there. Okay, so we've been going about 2 or 3 minutes here with the mushrooms and shallot mixture. We're gonna add just a touch of kosher salt here. And then we're gonna add a little bit of pepper as well. Kind of salt and pepper to taste. You don't need too much because there's salt on the steak. We're gonna stir that in. You can see all the liquid come out. So the fond, that's the stuff that kind of sticks to the bottom of the pan, that sort of charcoaly blackened stuff. That's so good as far as flavor goes. So you want to get that all up. You can see once we put these mushrooms in, it kind of deglazed the pan just from all the moisture that came out of the mushrooms. And it's looking pretty good. Just looking around her. And we're gonna keep cooking away. You can see these mushrooms, they were piled out of the pan. They reduced down to so little compared to what they started as. So let's keep going, another couple minutes here. Okay, we're gonna raise our heat to about medium high here again, and we're gonna add in about a half a cup of red wine. And we're gonna let that reduce. While that's reducing, I'm gonna add in the steak resting juice. Don't waste that. All right. And then we're gonna continue reducing here. Now, I didn't say this at the beginning, but you could add some water here to help it go a little further, or some beef broth, or even chicken stock or chicken broth works here. But we're gonna reduce this and see if we need to even do that step, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we're gonna add about 1/4 to a half a cup of beef broth, not too much. And then we're going to put in 1.5 tablespoons, couple tablespoons of butter. This is cold butter now going in. And then we're gonna stir this in, and we're almost there, folks. We're almost there. Okay, it's time to plate up. It's pouring rain outside. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. So we've got this like sort of potato cake. I'm gonna call it like a crushed potato that I made as the base. So this will keep your steak kind of lifted. So we're gonna put a little bit of the mushroom sauce first. And then we're gonna take one of our steaks here, our filet mignon, put it right on top there. And then let's finish it off with a little bit of this sauce too. Just kind of drizzle it over. Got to get those mushrooms and shallots, I'm telling you. Okay, and then let's add, got some Brussels sprouts over here. Sorry, Bobby, this is like impromptu. So we have some Brussels sprouts from another recipe. We actually cooked them all on the same night. Let's make them look really cool around here. All right, look at that. We're getting fancy. Now let's bring it over to our board on our next scene here, and we'll give it a shot. Now remember, our steak's been resting here for about 10 minutes, so it's probably ready to be cut into. All right, as you all know, it's my favorite time. It's taste test time. So we've got our filet mignon here. We've got that potato cake underneath. Kimber's, of course, making crazy noise in the background like she always does when it's time to roll. We've got our Brussels sprouts, which you will see this Brussels sprout on another recipe here. So let's cut into this steak here. Let me do it so you guys can see. Let's go right in the middle. Perfect, medium rare. Look at that wall-to-wall pink, and that comes from the resting. You don't get that nasty sort of brown around the outside. And let's cut a little piece off and give it a shot. Get some of these mushrooms on there, dip it in that sauce. I mean, it's nearly impossible to beat a good steak, especially a filet mignon. I like a lot of different steaks. This is in my top 3 favorite steaks though. I mean, ribeye is probably my top. This is probably number 2. It's so good. Make this at home. It's not super complicated. Thank you so much for stopping by Moby's Kitchen. We really appreciate the views. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the subscribe. Spread the word. We've got tons of other videos coming up that are going to be great. So thanks again for stopping by, and make this at home.